10 days after September 11, 2001, FBI agents entered an office at the Defense Intelligence Agency and arrested the woman trusted to explain Cuba to the United States government. Ana Belén Montes was not a junior clerk who had stumbled across one secret. She was the DIA's senior Cuba analyst, consulted across the intelligence community, and positioned to receive information about the coming war in Afghanistan. For 16 years, she had served another government. Montes did not leave stacks of classified documents at dead drops. She did not suddenly buy a mansion or fill a garage with sports cars. She carried secrets out of secure buildings in her memory, reconstructed them on a laptop at home, and delivered them through encrypted disks, coded radio broadcasts, public telephones, and personal meetings. Cuba paid her no salary beyond certain expenses. Ideology was enough. That made her harder to find. It also made the questions surrounding her case more disturbing. What happens when the insider does not believe she is betraying her country, but correcting it? Ana Belén Montes was born in 1957 in Nuremberg, West Germany, where her Puerto Rican father was serving with the U.S. Army. She grew up in an American military family and later studied foreign affairs, graduating from the University of Virginia before earning a master's degree from the Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies in Washington. Her academic interests placed her inside the arguments consuming Washington during the early 1980s. The Reagan administration viewed leftist movements in Central America through the lens of the Cold War and supported governments and armed groups it believed could stop Soviet or Cuban influence. Critics saw American power protecting violent regimes and intervening in the politics of smaller nations. Montes belonged firmly to the second camp. While working in a clerical and freedom of information position at the Department of Justice, she spoke openly against U.S. policy in Central America. Her views attracted the attention of people who believed she might be willing to do more than protest. According to a later federal indictment, a friend from graduate school, Marta Rita Velázquez, introduced Montes to a Cuban intelligence officer in New York in December 1984. The approach did not rely on money or blackmail. Cuban intelligence had identified a potential recruit whose political convictions aligned with Havana's interests. Montes agreed to cooperate. In 1985, she traveled clandestinely to Cuba for training and was encouraged to seek a position where her access would become more valuable. In September 1985, the Defense Intelligence Agency hired her as an analyst. The timing was almost perfect. Cuba supported revolutionary movements and maintained military relationships across the developing world. The Pentagon needed analysts who understood Havana's forces, leadership, alliances, and intentions. Montes possessed the education, language skills, discipline, and regional focus the assignment demanded. She was not pretending to be competent in order to enter the system. She was competent, and that competence carried her deeper into it. Over the years, she became one of the U.S. government's leading authorities on Cuba. Colleagues sometimes called her the Queen of Cuba. Her assessments reached senior military officers, diplomats, and policymakers. She received professional recognition and built a reputation for precision. Inside an intelligence culture that rewards expertise, being the person who knows more than everyone else creates authority. It can also reduce the number of people willing to challenge your conclusions. By day, Montes worked inside classified systems. She reviewed military reporting, collection programs, operational information, and the identities of intelligence personnel. But she generally avoided removing documents in electronic or paper form. Instead, she memorized details, carried them home, and typed them into a Toshiba laptop. The method was low-tech but carefully designed. Cuban intelligence supplied software and a handwritten code sheet that helped her encrypt and decrypt messages. She copied information onto encrypted disks for delivery. Instructions arrived through shortwave radio broadcasts in which groups of numbers were read in Spanish. To an ordinary listener, the transmission was meaningless. With the correct key, the numbers became orders. Public infrastructure completed the system. Montes could place calls from payphones and enter coded digits into pager numbers. She could meet a handler in a crowded city without carrying a classified folder. The laptop did not need an internet connection. The shortwave receiver did not need to answer back. Each tool performed one narrow function, limiting the evidence created by the whole network. Her professional life provided the camouflage. A Cuba analyst had legitimate reasons to study Cuban capabilities. An employee with strong political opinions was not automatically a spy. A person who lived modestly and accepted no secret salary did not produce the financial anomalies that later exposed Aldrich Ames or helped confirm other espionage cases. Montes passed a polygraph. Concern existed, but concern never assembled itself into a case. The secrets she provided were not limited to general policy. Montes later acknowledged revealing the identities of 4 undercover American intelligence officers operating against Cuba. Federal officials said none of those 4 was physically harmed, but their exposure ended operations, endangered contacts, and told Havana where the United States had penetrated. The broader damage remains partly classified. DIA has stated that her actions compromised Cuban-focused collection programs used to monitor senior Cuban officials. Every exposed method carried a second cost. Once Havana understood how Washington collected information, it could close the channel, feed it deception, or watch it long enough to identify additional sources. Montes also had access to military information concerning Latin America. One of the darkest allegations connects her espionage to the March 1987 attack on the U.S.-supported military facility at El Paraíso, El Salvador, where insurgents killed Special Forces Sergeant Gregory Fronius. Scott Carmichael, the DIA counterintelligence officer who later led the internal investigation, concluded that information supplied by Montes was responsible for his death. DIA has said it is likely that her reporting contributed to American and Allied casualties in the region. But that conclusion was not established in her criminal plea as a separately proven murder. The distinction matters. The known damage is serious enough without transforming an intelligence assessment into a courtroom finding. Montes compromised military information. Fronius was killed when his position was overrun. Investigators later connected her to that loss. The full chain remains hidden behind classified records. There was another form of influence that left no body on a battlefield. As a senior analyst, Montes helped shape how the U.S. government understood Cuba. The FBI later said she deliberately distorted official views while leaking classified military information. That did not mean she could rewrite national policy alone. Intelligence assessments are reviewed, challenged, and combined with reporting from many agencies. But an acknowledged expert can affect which evidence appears credible, which threat receives emphasis, and which doubt survives into a final briefing. The spy was therefore working on both sides of the analytic equation. She supplied Havana with American knowledge while participating in the production of American judgments about Havana. Even when her conclusions reflected genuine belief rather than a direct Cuban instruction, the conflict was absolute. No reader of her work knew that its author had secretly pledged herself to the government being analyzed. The first serious warning came from inside DIA. In April 1996, a co-worker reported suspicions that Montes might be under Cuban influence. A security inquiry interviewed her, but investigators could not substantiate the concern. Montes admitted nothing, and the matter was filed away. The system had received a signal, examined it in isolation, and found it too weak to act upon. 2 years later, the intelligence community began hunting an unidentified Cuban agent, believed to have access to sensitive information involving the U.S. naval base at Guantanamo Bay. The inquiry crossed organizational boundaries and lasted years. Investigators did not begin with Montes. They began with a profile, the unknown person's access, position, communications, and likely history. In October 2000, FBI investigators met DIA counterintelligence personnel to discuss that profile. The old 1996 suspicion returned with new meaning. Scott Carmichael and the DIA team identified Montes as the likely match. Now, every ordinary detail could be examined as part of a pattern. Her access fit. Her subject area fit. Her career timeline fit. Her political views, once treated as personal opinion, became relevant when combined with operational indicators. Still, investigators needed evidence. Espionage cannot be proven by ideology, and an intelligence agency cannot criminalize disagreement with government policy. On January 4, 2001, Montes sat for what she believed was a routine interview connected to the renewal of her security clearance. In reality, the investigation was testing her. The questions did not produce a confession. In February, DIA quietly froze certain personnel rotations to keep her in one office where she could be monitored. The FBI expanded physical and electronic surveillance. Agents watched her movements and waited for contact with a Cuban handler. They hoped a face-to-face meeting would expose more of the network and produce evidence impossible to explain away. Arresting Montes too early might remove one spy while leaving the people directing her untouched. On May 25th, an FBI team covertly entered her apartment. They found equipment and evidence consistent with Cuban tradecraft, including the laptop and material used to process coded communications. Investigators later compared recovered information with encrypted broadcasts and pager activity. What had appeared to be scattered, meaningless signals began resolving into a clandestine system. In August, the FBI gained access to sweep her DIA workspace. By then, the case was strong enough to arrest her, but surveillance continued. The investigators wanted the handler. Every additional day, however, created a risk that Montes might detect the operation or receive another secret she could transmit. Then, 4 hijacked airliners changed the calculation. After the attacks of September 11th, the United States began preparing military operations against Al-Qaeda and the Taliban. Because of her senior position, Montes was about to gain access to targeting and planning information connected to the expected invasion of Afghanistan. Cuba was not responsible for the attacks, but classified war plans passed to any unauthorized foreign government could spread beyond the original recipient. The investigators could no longer wait for the ideal arrest. On September 21, 2001, FBI agents arrested Montes at her DIA office. She was 44 years old. To the colleagues around her, the accusation seemed incompatible with the person they knew. The disciplined analyst, the recognized expert, the employee who had spent her career explaining Cuba to Washington. That reputation had not existed beside the espionage. It had helped conceal it. The search revealed the strange intimacy of modern spying. A shortwave radio in an apartment, a laptop that transformed remembered secrets into encrypted text, a code sheet with groups of letters and numbers, public phones used as one-way transmitters, no invisible ink, no diplomatic suitcase, no dramatic exchange beneath a bridge, only ordinary objects connected by training and patience. On March 19, 2002, Montes pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit espionage on behalf of Cuba. The agreement spared her the possibility of a capital prosecution and required cooperation with U.S. authorities. On October 16th, a federal judge sentenced her to 25 years in prison, followed by 5 years of supervised release. At sentencing, Montes did not claim that greed or coercion had driven her. She described American policy toward Cuba as cruel and unfair, and said she had felt morally obligated to help the island defend itself. That statement explains her motive. It does not erase the decisions required to act on it. Accepting recruitment by a foreign intelligence service, seeking classified access, deceiving colleagues, exposing officers, and transmitting information for 16 years. Ideological espionage creates a dangerous moral shelter. A paid spy knows a transaction has occurred. A true believer can rename betrayal as duty and treat every security rule as an obstacle imposed by the unjust side. The stronger the conviction, the easier it becomes to discount the lives of people who never consented to the private war being fought around them. Montes served more than 20 years and was released from federal prison on January 6, 2023. Her sentence did not settle the political argument that motivated her, and it could not fully calculate the damage she caused. Compromised operations disappear into classified archives. Sources stop reporting. Analysts rebuild assessments without knowing exactly where manipulation began. Her case changed how DIA thought about insider threats. Access controls, background reinvestigations, polygraphs, and information sharing received closer attention. Yet no procedure can completely eliminate the central vulnerability she exploited. Institutions must trust people with secrets in order to function. Ana Montes looked nothing like the mercenary traitor investigators had learned to follow. She left no unexplained fortune. She performed her job well. She believed she was serving a higher moral purpose. That combination allowed a Cuban agent to become the American government's most trusted voice on Cuba. So how should history judge her? By the political conviction she claimed, or by the officers, operations, and decisions she secretly exposed? Tell us where you draw the line between conscience and betrayal. Subscribe to the Modern Ledger and continue with our next investigation into the spies who reshaped the Cold War from inside the system. Ideology can rewrite a person's loyalties, but the ledger still records the cost.